Howdy, and welcome back to Celebrating Vintage Model Kits. Today we're going to be looking at one of my all-time favorite kits, the Revell B-17F in 1/72nd scale. This is a 1972 issue of a kit that was originally issued in 1962. Pretty much almost identical boxing on it from the original issue. This is kit number H201 and is 1/72nd scale. The box art is by the famous Jack Lenwood. This is one of my favorite box arts from him. It just is very dynamic. The B-17 just looks like it's bursting off the cover. I cut this thing out, and hung it on my wall. I built 2 or 3 of these, as a kid, and it was just, one of my favorite kits to build. So this is kind of a special video for me to revisit this kit. We're not going to get much into the B-17 because, I think most everybody knows, a lot about the B-17. But let's talk a little bit about the Memphis Belle, the subject of this kit. So this was, the Memphis Belle was a Boeing-built B-17F-10BO, built by, or it was assigned manufacturer serial number 3170. The U.S. Army Air Corps, when it was ordered, had assigned, it was the Air Corps at the time when it was assigned a serial number 4124485, and it was added to the U.S. AAF inventory on 15 July of 42. By then, it had become the Army Air Force instead of the Army Air Corps. It was delivered on September of 42 to the 91st Bomb Group, who were prepping to go overseas at Dow Field in Bangor, Maine. Finally deployed overseas to Prestwick, Scotland, 30 September of 42, and then went to RAF Bassingbourn in England on 14 October. And then the aircraft was assigned to the 324th Bomb Squadron of the 91st Bomb Group and was assigned the coding of DF-A. So DF was the code for the 324th, and A was the individual aircraft number. So its first mission was flown on 7 November of 1942. Last mission was flown on 19 May of 1943. So that was the 25th mission. Most of the time it had the same crew. About halfway through the tour, the co-pilot was given his own aircraft command. But he did come back for the final mission because it was the subject of a film that was being put together by William Wyler about the first B-17 to complete 25 missions. Interesting, they were actually following a different crew and it was almost done, and then that aircraft got shot down, so they shifted focus to the Memphis Belle. And, in reality, the Memphis Belle was not the first, B-17, nor the first heavy bomber in the ETO to complete 25 missions. That actually goes to a B-24 named Hot Stuff from the 93rd Bomb Group, 330th Bomb Squadron. They completed 25 missions as a complete crew on February 7th of 1943. So, a good 3.5 months before the Memphis Belle did their 25. And as far as B-17s go, for quite a while it was thought that Hell's Angels, a B-17 from the 303rd Bomb Group, was the first to complete 25 on 13 May of 43. But later research has shown that it was actually Delta Revell from the 323rd Bomb Squadron, also from the 91st Bomb Group, who actually completed the 25th mission on 1 May of 1943. So that's a little bit of background on the B-17, or on the Memphis Belle itself. So let's take a look at the kit. And so over here we've got a lot of information that's being given to you by Revell here. The B-17 F-Series Boeing aircraft, the famous Memphis Belle, 72nd scale king size wingspan of 17 and a quarter inches. And here's all the extra features that they want to point out: movable ailerons, rudder, elevator, propellers, rotating gun turrets, detailed landing gear, authentic decals, Petty Girl plane insignia, and victory notches. And then you've got frameable box art painted for Revell by Jack Lenwood. So even in the 60s, they were, highlighting, hey, Jack's pretty good artist here. Let's pay attention to him. So on the end, we've got a repeat of the box art. We've got our kit number here for intermediate modelers, ages 10 to adults. This end is similar as well. On this side, we've got suggesting use of Pactra paint. I think in the original kit it would have said using Revell stuff. By the 70s, Revell was out of the game of producing their own glues and paints, and so they're suggesting Pactra enamels, which I always like Pactra. And here's some line drawings of some of the details of the kit. And on this side, we've got some advertising here for the Revell Master Modelers Club. So you send in your $1 in this cutout thing here, and you get yourself a Pro Modeler set, their official certificate, year subscription into the quarterly magazine, the Revell catalog, and an official iron-on emblem to make your own t-shirt. So all that for $1. Can't beat that. So that's the outside. Let's take a look at the inside. So we've got our instruction sheet in here. And as we can see, it is a reprint of the 62 instructions. And really emphasizing the Memphis Belle up here. Your fuselage assembly, putting all the stuff in here, all the window pieces, assembling your gun turrets, which were very, very simplified. Your flight deck is just a couple of seats. Your bomb bay is just a couple of bombs stuck on this little square thing you'd stick in there. Other half, put the windows in that half. There's your rudder assemblies, or I'm sorry, your elevator assemblies and your horizontal stabilizers. As you can see, they're movable. Putting it all together, the fuselage halves together. And here's your bomb bay doors, which were movable. That wasn't mentioned on the box cover, but those could open and close. The tail wheel here also was something that could retract and was movable as well. And then here you get your main gear, and then put that inside there, and there's your flaps, your ailerons. Your main gear was also movable. Here's the other wing. Here's putting your props onto your engines. Put the engines on the wing. Put the wings on the fuselage. And if you notice, as you're going along, it's showing you, painting parts of the model as you're going along, not just the detail parts, but also, painting the underside of the fuselage, paint the underside of the stabilizer gray. So they're showing you to be painting all these things while you're putting this thing together, as opposed to waiting to the end, which is a little bit of a different way of doing it. And then here's your final decals. And then this is kind of cool. On the back is this full page information about the Memphis Belle itself, with more of a history, listing of all the bomb missions that they went on, the crew, and then specifications of the B-17 itself. So kind of a nice tribute to them, with a nice photograph of the crew when they came back. I think that's probably a stateside picture when they were doing their war bond tour. That's your instructions. Fortunately, this particular kit does not have a set of decals, so we'll be skipping that and get right into the kit itself. And so we've got our fuselage halves, and as typical of the early 60s large aircraft that they were producing, like they did a B-24, B-25, B-29, it's very heavily riveted, somewhat simple, but detailed enough. here's the other half. A little bit of flash here and there. As you can see, pretty much nothing on the inside. So there's our fuselage. Take a look at our wing. Our top half. Again, heavy rivets everywhere. I mean, the B-17 was, a heavily riveted aircraft, but it's a little out of scale, maybe a little overdone, but hey, it was still a cool B-17. Now you got the turbo superchargers on the bottom that are molded on. Pretty decent representation of those. So not too bad. The wing. And we got our horizontal stabilizer pieces, very similar again, similar rivet detail. You do have your de-icing boots, just represented by a line, and no riveting on that, which is correct. Here's one of our flaps, and you do have some detail on the inside. Unfortunately, there's some ejector pin marks on there. And let's see what else we got in here. Here's one of our bomb bay doors. And it does have some detail on the inside, but again, ejector pin marks on there kind of spoils that. Here's our main landing gear as one piece. Pretty nicely detailed. It's not just a stump. And here's our tail wheel. That is a little bit simplified. And here's one of our propellers. They're not too badly done. And let's see what else we got here. Oh, here's one of the ailerons. You get a little bit of representation of the fabric covering with those little lines there. So not overly done. There's our rudder. Same thing. And let's take a look at one of the engines. So even though it's just one piece, it's a pretty nice representation of the right cyclone in there. Not too bad. The cowl flaps are pretty simplified, but they're there. Here's our bomb bay with a nice Revell copyright marker on there. This part's a little cheesy. And what else we got in here? Here's our flight deck with a couple of seats. And that's all there is for interior detail. What else we got in here? It's worthwhile looking at. Your wheels are in parts. So you got to put those together, so that's a little challenging. You get a little bit of representation of treading on the outside, but it's going to be a bit of a challenge getting that big fat seam out of there. Then here's the clear parts tree. A lot of little windows on the B-17. The turret representation is just this little half dome pieces, especially for the ball turret. Held on by the little stubs, so then you've got that little post, showing up on the roof of the turret. They did a good job of representing the early F-type flat turret with good framing on it, and the ball turret, not as well done on that. They do give you the windows for the waist guns in the closed position, and then a whole bunch of these little windows to go in different spots. Here's some of the nose windows up in the for the side guns. They got little holes there to put the side guns out. And there's our radio roof window, and this is our blown nose, which isn't too bad. A little thick. Then we've got our windscreen, all as one piece. Not terrible. And our tail gunner windows. So, a couple of things that you may notice is missing from here are the guns. Whoever had this kit before, looks like they swapped out the guns for some other guns that they'd acquired from some other kit. These are definitely, from what I remember of those guns, these are definitely better than the other one. You didn't get waist guns with the original kit, so looks like this person may have been thinking they're going to add waist guns. This one here is, even though this is in gray plastic, this is almost identical to what I remember the turret guns being, and this may have come from another kit from Revell, maybe from the B-24 or some other one. Remember, you just like slip these on the post, and that was your guns. So that was definitely one of the drawbacks of this kit. The weapons and turrets on it were a little weak, but for a 1962 kit, not too bad. You know, a fun build as a little kid, man. You had all these movable parts, and I mean, you got a B-17 out of it. And what's cooler than a B-17? So this kit was reissued a number of times. Let's see, let me look at my list here. Revell, yeah. So Revell 62 was the very first issue. And there was a joint issue with Heller in France, which surprised me. I had no idea that Heller imported some Revell kits for a little while in the mid-60s. And they have their own box art. It's a version of this, but it's got a completely different background, and their box is a long, skinny box, so it's kind of tilted differently and stuff, but it's still really neat-looking box art. But go figure, Revell reissued this kit. Then 67, there was a photo box version. They changed the kit to a different B-17 called Lady Luck. Revell Great Britain issued that same photo box one. Revell Keycolor, which is Revell out of Brazil, did an issue of this original boxing style, as well as Revell Japan in 67 and Revell Lodella, which is Mexico. They all did this version of it in 67. 71, there was another issue from Revell of Japan, similar to this, with a little bit different style on the side over here. 72, which is this issue, is another Revell reissue. 72, Revell Great Britain did a completely different version of it in RAF markings as a Fortress 2, Fortress 2A. And then in 73, Revell did a completely new box art of a B-17E, the Peggy D, and that's a pretty dynamic box art too. I believe that one was also done by Jack Lenwood. Revell Japan in 75 did their version of that Peggy D. And then in 79, Revell went to another photo box of the Memphis Belle again. They went back to the original decals. But they mislabeled the box, calling it a B-17E. Interesting enough. Revell Lodella and Revell Keycolor, also in 79, did their versions of that photo box issue. And then Revell in 89 came up with some new box art, some new decals. They decaled it as the Miami Clipper and the Knockout Dropper and the Buccaneer. So you had 3 decal options on it in 89. And then there was another final issue with revised box art in 91. So that was the last time this kit was issued. So it had a pretty good run. So that's about it with the kit. Final mention, the Memphis Belle still exists if you're unaware. After the war, it came to the United States and did, during the war, it came to the United States with the original crew. and did war bond tours. And after that was done, it was sent to get mothballed out in Arizona. The mayor of Memphis found out that the plane was going to get scrapped, and worked out a deal where the city bought it for something like $350. Had it flown out to Memphis in 1946, and it was put out, as a display next to, some veterans monument. And it sat outdoors for quite a number of years, and gradually, just got vandalized. The elements were taking its toll. Reportedly, there was virtually nothing left on the aircraft that could, if it could be removed, it had been removed. The entire interior had been completely gutted. So it was in really sad shape. They at some point did a, kind of a repaint, surface restoration, stuck it underneath a tarp, or some canvas, covering thing to try to preserve it a little bit. And at some point, another mayor donated it back to the United States Air Force. And so the Air Force Museum in the 90s, was kind of starting to say, hey, you guys need to take care of this plane. It's historically significant. And if you don't, we're going to take it back. So they tried to raise up some money and get the aircraft back into presentable shape, but they just couldn't get enough money of it. So eventually the Air Force Museum claimed the aircraft back. It was taken back to Dayton, to the Air Force Museum for full restoration, and it was completed, I believe it was 2017 or 2018. It was finally completed. It's an absolutely gorgeous restoration. So it has a prominent place in the U.S. Air Force Museum. So if you'd like to see it, it is there for you to see. So that's about it for today. If you've built one of these, tell us about it in the comment section. I have a feeling that a lot of you guys have built this kit. I think this is one of their most popular kits out there. And as always, if you got one of these sitting on your shelves, you can shoot a picture of it, send it in. We'll include it in the next viewer build video. Well, thanks for watching, and have yourself a great rest of your day.